Hi, I'm Dave Mattson, CEO of Sandler. Today, I have a guest, which I'm super honored by having Carlos Garrido join us. He's an award-winning Sandler franchisee out of Miami. Now, Carlos, you've been with us now for 7 years, and you came from a different country, right? You came into Miami, didn't know anybody. It's kind of a cool story. So can you walk us through how you got here and then why Sandler?
Hi, Dave. Thanks for inviting me on today. And yeah, I'm real happy to share that story. There's a long version and a short version. I'll give you the short version.
Okay.
I came to Miami probably 10 years, no, not probably, almost exactly 10 years ago. But I came as part of a big corporate job. We were running Latin America out of Miami. So I was never in Miami. You know, I would spend weekends in Miami and that was it. I would just get on a plane, fly to Brazil, fly to Mexico. But you know, something interesting happened. My brother, Antonio, who you know well, who's my partner in Sandler,
Right.
he used to have to come to Dallas because his corporate office was Dallas, come out of the UK, and he would fly through Miami. And we used to, you know, have a couple of beers at the weekend, and he would organize his travel to spend a weekend with me in Miami. And the reason he used to fly, one of the reasons he would fly to Dallas so regularly is because he was a Sandler client of Tom Neeson. He was Tom Neeson's client.
Yep.
And over that period of time, over the period of 3 years of him coming to Miami, spending some time with me, you know, his kids had just kind of left home. They kind of liked Miami, and he loved Sandler. And he hatched this plan to open Sandler Miami. Him and Tom Neeson hatched this plan. He asked me to join him. I told him absolutely not. What a crazy idea. Sales what? Training? You know, weird. And he asked me to write his business plan for it because he needed a business plan for immigration purposes. He didn't really need a business plan. But for immigration, you have to show that you're actually going to be a real business.
Okay.
And so he gave me the numbers of a few fellow Sandler business owners. Roger Wentworth, I spoke to Tom. There was about a dozen, maybe 6 people I spoke to. And in the course of doing that diligence for Antonio, and I would go and visit, and my job had me traveling the world. So wherever I was a local Sandler guy, I'd go in and see a class, you know, see what this stuff's about. And I spoke to clients, and over about a 4-month period of writing that business plan, I fell in love with it. And I did, and I fell in love with a bunch of things. First of all, I never thought I would like a franchise, because like, wow, you know, do we really want people telling us what to do every day? It just sounds like another job. So I didn't like the idea of a franchise, and I certainly didn't like the idea of sales training. And over a period of 3 or 4 months, I just fell in love with the business, the network, the economic model was spectacular. The client, the conversations I had with clients, and then so I wrote his business plan, and I put myself as a feature of the business plan, and we were partners from that point. And then I came to Baltimore and met you in a discovery day about 7.5 years ago. But no, actually about 7 years ago, almost to the day, around this time, we did a discovery day. In fact, it was June, absolutely right. June 2013, the day you and I met in Discovery Day.
I'll tell you what, a couple things pop up. First of all, I'm pretty sure your brother trapped you into it by doing the business plan. I mean, that sounds like that was a well thought out plan by Antonio. Would that be fair?
It could have been. I could have been caught in that web. And if he did do that, he's real smart. And I imagine Tom Neeson might have had a hand in that as well, because Antonio's extremely smart, but Tom's dastardly, and that's a dastardly move, right?
Well, you'll thank him for it, though.
Oh, absolutely.
When you talk to clients, you're talking about the impact that Sandler had. And although, people can make money, and that's always how we keep score, I want to talk a little bit about what you just said, which is, that impact that we have on business owners and people's lives, and really how that makes us feel as well. So can you talk a bit about that? Because I think people downplay what impact we have and how that actually energizes us?
So I'll give you my thoughts on that, Dave. I think, or I believe, I should say, I had done some sales training in the UK, and I even forget now who it was, probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And it didn't impact, it didn't have any result. And so, you know, when I consider, I am an economic animal. I love the impact we have on clients. But I'm a CPA by background. I'm an investment banker. You know, my mind just goes straight to the dollars and value creation. And when Antonio spoke to me, the two sets of antibodies I had on the plan were number one, sales training, because I'd experienced sales training and hadn't changed anything in my life. And so if there isn't any impact, then there's no long-term economic path in my mind. My mind just makes things very simple. If you impact people and bring value, there's going to be value there. If you don't impact people, if you don't bring value, then yeah, you can steal some value at the short term, but it isn't a long-term play. It can never be a long-term play unless you really legitimately bring value. So one set of antibodies was about franchising, and I got over that. And one set of antibodies were around, are you creating a path to long-term success? To do that, you have to bring value. My mind wasn't there at first. Then I spoke to clients, and I was speaking to people who'd been they'd been in Sandler for years, decades. And so that really made me scratch my head because, you know, I'd already half written this business plan thinking it was sales training. I know what sales training is. And I didn't know what sales training was. I didn't really, and it's so much more than sales training. It's the management I think if all we did was sales training, we would still make enormous impact. But I think what we do is so much more than sales training that impact is just magnified. And there is so much value created by what we do, personal and economic, personal value that we help with, the impact we have on clients' lives, but also on their economics. If we didn't make them more money, then we wouldn't work with them for decades, right? I mean, people aren't stupid.
Right.
So that was a key feature, really. And so, yeah, I would love to think that it was the more human part of my spirit that was drawn to Sandler, but it really wasn't. It was the dollars. I didn't believe the dollar equation until I saw the longevity of the relationships, and that clarified for me the dollars.
Well, I'll talk a little about your first angst. Was it a franchise? Like, I don't want to be micromanaged. I don't want to be told to burn the hamburger for 2.5 minutes. The alarm goes off and I got to burn it again the other side for 2.5 minutes. Because as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, we tinker, right? That's what we do. And we're always chasing the next idea. So let's talk a little bit about how the Sandler relationship is set up with the trainers and franchises as yourself, because I don't think we micromanage you. Let's talk about the flexibility that you have and the different models that are out there that you can pick and choose from.
Yeah, that's a great discussion. I want to clarify something I said about my antibodies to franchising. There was two folds. One was the one you said about the hamburger, 2 minutes either side. And, there was like almost a philosophical antibody I had to franchising, which was, I've been in investment banking my whole life. It didn't feel like a real business somehow. It felt like a pretend business, almost like playing at business. And in the past, if somebody had said, I had franchise, my mind went to a pretty dark place. It was like, it almost discounted the entrepreneurial investment and it discounted it in my mind. The fact that it was complete, and maybe in some circumstances with some franchises where you get the plan, right? Hire these 4 people to do this, right. Those be in this location. Here's the plan. Just turn the hand, but pay me $200,000, turn the handle on this machine and money comes out. But that certainly isn't when I was doing my diligence on this, that isn't what I found. I found I think I spoke in depth to maybe 5 or 6 different. I know one of them was Wentworth, one of them were the Polins, because I was based up in Philadelphia at the time for a short time. Tom Neeson. I found everybody I spoke to had an entirely different business, like entirely. Some people, all public programs. Some people, all private programs. Some people, the tip of the spear is the sales program, the stuff we're known for, like across the globe. Some people, management, that's their tip of their spear, and they kind of draw the other programs in around a management-led. Some of them leadership now. So I saw very different models, and I asked myself, how do you take the same seed? You put a seed in the ground, and it creates a completely different, tree. How does that happen? And I think that it comes down to the market that business is in.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the experience set that the lead of that business brings.
Right.
Experience, and also the network they have, the kind of natural ambient network. Even though saying that, me and Antonio had 0 network in Miami. I mean, 0. We, in 7 years, I don't think we've had $1 off anybody we knew before we opened the Sandler business. It's quite disappointing in some ways, but nobody. We knew nobody. Antonio's first day in Miami was the day we opened living in Miami was the day we opened the business. I mean, and that was the day I stopped traveling to Latin America every day. We knew nobody. So I think we grew kind of a pretty standard Sandler business. I mean, you've got a better lens on this than anybody, but I think, we started with sales. We developed a management program. We're public program heavy, private program. Well, we're starting to become private program heavy. That's a mistake, but we're getting drawn there. But I think we kind of were forced into running and we're in a metropolis, right? Miami, it's a cool market. Right. So I think a kind of very standard tree grew out of the Sandler seed, out of us and out of Miami. But if we'd have had a local network that was like a lot of bankers, I think we'd have like a financial services Sandler business now. If we had in our local marketplace, maybe an abundance of media companies, because maybe we're in San Francisco, or we're technology companies, then I think we would have a very tech-flavored Sandler business. But we just happen to know nobody, be in a metropolis where there's all kinds of business, and we had the benefit of really not knowing what we were doing. And that was brutal for the first 12 months, and then fantastic after that. Yeah, you probably want to cut that line out, but yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's true. I think you're starting anything, anyone that tells you, hey, buy a franchise and you're going to be instantly successful is not being truthful. Look, you're going to work 80 hours, a week. You're going to put all your sweat, tears into the business. And it's a lonely business. Let's face it. I want to talk about the field and collaboration, because although we're entrepreneurs, we get to do what we want. We get to tinker. There's a ton of business models out there. Lots of times there's always this friction between franchisees and franchisors. No one will say it, but certainly if you've done your due diligence in franchise, that that's there. And I'm particularly proud that I don't believe we have that. And the collaboration between home office and trainers like yourself, and then also the collaboration between the franchisees themselves. I mean, you're on a couple committees which are truly shaping the future of Sandler. And where would that happen that we would even ask the field to contribute to that?
I don't have any, I never looked at other franchises, so I have absolutely no point of reference. All I can tell you is in my experience, I think it helps enormously that you came out of the field, right? If my knowledge of this is right, I think you worked with Mark, you were in the field. I think that helps. I've never felt anything but enormous support from them, and I've never heard anybody say anything but enormous support. I mean, for crying out loud, I had an hour this morning on the phone with my coach, Eddie. I've had an hour on the phone with my Sandler coach every week for 7 years. I mean, I would pay, my clients pay more than I pay you. Don't put my fee up. My clients pay more to me for what I get out of Eddie than I pay you in fees for everything, for the whole show. So I get Eddie. I called you earlier this week, asked you for advice on a deal. You called me, I sent you an email, you called me back, and you spent 20 minutes advising me on a deal because it was a deal of a scale I have not been all that comfortable with before. It's been in my cookbook to call another franchisee every week, and I have done every week. So I do 1 hour with my coach. I do 30 minutes with another franchisee. I've done it every week for 7 years. Plus I go on the PC telecoms that we have, they have these, we have for if anybody's watching this video and they don't know what that is, that's like where the whole franchise network comes together to discuss a particular aspect of training or prospecting or selling,
right?
Or managing the business. That's 2 of those a week. I bet I've been to 80-90% of those. I make that part of my.
Well, some of those are run by franchisees. I mean, in fairness, I think, and it always thinks it's hokey, but as an entrepreneur, as somebody that wants to control your own destiny, it's kind of nice to be in a bigger family where other franchises will do whatever they can to help you.
100%. Bill rang me up yesterday. He said, I've got to do a presentation on supervising for his management program. What have I got? I said, well, there's our Sandler stuff. Yeah, great. And I said, and here's some other stuff that I've used, and I sent it to him. So, and I will do a call like that once a week for sure. Somebody who I know is an expert in that field. Compensation. Who's good at compensation? Maybe one of these fringe topics that we don't have core material in. There's always somebody. I mean, there's 500 of us. Yeah. Average tenure, 10 years. That's 5,000 years of experience to draw on. I mean, I'd be an idiot not to phone these people up from time to time, right? And we do role plays, on a Wednesday, Eddie's role play sessions. I was doing that yesterday. So the support is extraordinary. The support is absolutely extraordinary. They say, in fact, that I think the statistic is that if you start your own business, it takes 7 years to hit the salary I don't know if it's 7 or 10, to hit the salary you were at before you started the business. I think there is a stat like that. And they say if you use a franchise model, that's trimmed to, I think, 5. And I know with Sandler, and I had a big pre-Sandler salary. It was 3. With Sandler, it was 3. And I don't know if that's just us or if that's common. I don't know if you hear that story a lot, but yeah.
Well, listen, I've been a big fan of you and your brother Antonio for a long time. You and I talk quite frequently, sharing ideas, asking each other for advice. So I certainly appreciate everything that you've done, and I'm proud to have you as part of the network. So listen, if you want to be like Carlos and have your independence and control your own destiny, why don't you give us a call at 410-559-2033 or email us at franchising@sandler.com. And I'm lking forward to the opportunity to help you make sure this is your last career stop.